Welcome back to That's Gonna Cost Ya. If anybody has been around for a while, you know that I've wrestled with my podcast for a long time. So I've had different ideas and different names. I've literally been podcasting probably since 2018, I think beginning of 2018, because I remember I was doing it around the same time I was still doing sales. And this was before I started dancing, but I think the same year I started dancing. So anyways, I've been doing it for a long time, and I was doing it before it really blew up. I think the main reason was because I enjoyed talking to people and having conversations and learning new things that I thought it could be pretty beneficial. But the more that I do it and the more that I continue to kind of talk about my thoughts and my feelings and experiences, I feel like there are a lot of, duets and co-hosts and things like that. But I feel like there's something special in just being able to talk to a camera and kind of let out how you're feeling, what you're going through, kind of like a therapy session, because you don't know who might also be going through something like that. And I was talking to Izzy before we press play, basically, and I was like, that's going to cost you. What do I mostly talk about? And I guess we could talk about costly lessons of life, right? Different things that I've been through, and who am I? I'm only 27, but at the same time, I do feel like I've lived a pretty full life filled with different experiences, and hopefully more life is, to be lived. But that's definitely something that I think is a big emphasis on this podcast, is just sharing different tales of when I was dancing. And there's more to me than just an ex-stripper, obviously. I've done a lot of things, I've gone through different things, but I think that was a really defining moment. And it's so weird because I haven't danced in almost 3 years. It's been 2 3/4. And I don't know what it is. It's everything could be going right in my life or even wrong. And I still have this itch to consider going back. And it's I always ask myself, why do I why do I want to go back? Why do I want to continue to do what I was doing? And there's a few different reasons behind it, but I would say one thing that prevents me from doing it is the fact that I don't live in Vegas anymore. You won't catch me at no strip club in Sac. I'll tell you that right now. Not even San Francisco, because it's just, I've had the best, at least I'd like to believe so. And that's all I would want to go back to if I was to go back. And it's weird because I wrestled with it so much. And I was on the phone with one of my best friends who's known me through that entire period because I met him out in Vegas. He was a host at one of the nightclubs. And he's literally family, one of my closest friends. Trust him, love him. He accepts me for me. He's seen me at, some really bad times, but also some really great times. And he was like, you just need something else that can really scratch that itch. And I ask myself that all the time because it's I'm currently building my business. The money is, really, it's a growing business. Things are well, to say the least. And I don't need to go back for dancing. It's not the money, I'd like to believe. I think it's the feeling of the transaction and how you get the money. And it sounds weird because a lot of people have this and this idea that strippers are hoes or they're prostitutes. And, a lot of them are. But there are the few that aren't, that, you put $2,000 in front of their face and all they're going to do is dance for you. They'll talk to you. They're not about to do nothing freaky for you. I'll tell you that. Certain girls. But I think it's the feeling of number one, there's a lot of attention, which some girls like it, some may not. It can be validating, even if it's from somebody that you would never go for. You know what I mean? Just nice compliments. But on the other hand, there can be a lot of, dickheads in the club that make you feel like maybe you aren't as good looking as you think, or maybe there's something wrong with your appearance, or whatever the case may be. People are always going to have an opinion. But I learned so much. My skin, I feel is way tougher than maybe before. I've been able to talk to so many different types of people, learn so many different things. We've touched on so many topics. And just the experience that you go through while in the club. But there's a lot of different things that I know I would never want to go back to, but I don't always like to think about those. I like to think about the good times because I have had a lot of bad times in the club, but the good times far outweigh the bad. And one of the ways that I've prevented myself, besides living far away, from going back to the clubs is always just reflecting, like, what is the point? Because it's interesting because I have you ever seen somebody that is so talented that has so much potential, but they just waste it? Like they go and they maybe get involved in drugs or they get involved with the wrong people or the wrong activities and they ruin their life or they ruin their potential, you could say. Maybe they, like, for example, how many of us know somebody who was a sports star in high school? Like, wow, this person could have made it to the NFL, the NBA. She could have made it to be an Olympic star. Like, whatever it is, think of that person, right? And think of that person who had all this potential, all this skill, all this ability, and they're not doing shit. They wasted it. And maybe it was because of an injury. Maybe it was because of life circumstances. But now it's too late, at least for them to pursue that thing, right? And it's sad. It sucks. And that's one of the things that I think about when I consider going back to something that I felt like was very rewarding, also very helpful in my life, but I know serves me it doesn't, it no longer serves me a purpose. And the reason I say that is because I've always known, for the most part, what I wanted, where I wanted to go, the dreams that I had, the goals that I had. But for whatever reason, it's kind of like an addict, right? Like somebody that might have been addicted to drugs or alcohol or gambling. And they did it for so long. I only did it for 4 years, right? But let's say this person did it for 10 years. Like we can relate it to addiction. We can also relate it to sports. So addiction, you've done this one thing, this habit, this action for so long. You're so used to it. Your body is used to it. Your schedule is used to it. And then you just stop. Whether you quit cold turkey or you slowly step away, whatever it is, you stop and you're sober for the last 2 to 3 years. And you just no longer do it, but you reminisce on those times. Now, there probably is a lot more bad times than good times, I'd assume, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's more good times than bad times. I don't know. Long story short, somebody that might have had an addiction, they might reminisce on those moments. They might even sometimes miss those moments and they may feel guilty about missing those moments. But that's because they did it for so long. It isn't just erased from your mind. Same thing for somebody that maybe didn't fuck up their ability to play a sport and make it to the next level. Maybe they just didn't make it because they weren't chosen or it just wasn't, they weren't the right fit. Whatever it is, maybe they weren't in the top percentage that makes it to that next level. If that's the case, imagine someone literally playing a sport, working towards a dream and a goal of being in that top 1% of making it to a certain level professionally in a sport and not making it. Like that's somebody that's done it their entire life. So I can only imagine, right? And I've had this feeling before when I was getting in a lot of trouble when I was a freshman in high school. I remember somebody approaching me while I was playing. It's funny. I feel like I've told this story. I've told it to other people, maybe not on the podcast, but when I was getting in a lot of trouble, bad home life, when I was a freshman in high school, things were really tough. And my best friend and I, Stephanie, still my best friend to this day, her and I decided we wanted to go out for the volleyball team in high school. We played it in middle school. So we were like, let's go do open gym volleyball. And while we were waiting for the open gym to start for volleyball, they had open gym for basketball. So me and her just started shooting around because we also played basketball in middle school. So we were just shooting around, whatever. And mind you, we were high. Like we had literally smoked weed like right before. Like that's how what I'm saying. Like, oh, we were like 14. It's like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things, right? So we're high, we're shooting the ball, like we're running around, whatever, waiting for volleyball to start. And somebody approaches me and they're like, hey, you've got a good shot, but have you tried it like this? Or let me help you with your shot. Let me fix your shot. And it ended up being what I would consider my first ever mentor. His name's 𝐻𝐤𝐦𝐞𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐩𝐬, basketball coach out of Vancouver, Washington, the best there is. And from that moment forward, he just took me under his wing. He mentored me. He helped me first of all, I didn't even end up playing volleyball. I ended up playing basketball. So he helped me. This is actually my sophomore year. My freshman year, I got in all this trouble. Sophomore year, was still starting to get in trouble, but he came in early enough to be able to guide me, help me, literally worked with me every single day. Me, him, and Stephanie and other girls that were about to play on the team. We all went to the blacktop every day, every single day. My grades went up. My home life got better, made the team. Everything in my life was great. And because my dad couldn't find a job where we lived, we had to move back to California. So everything that I'd worked towards was basically taken from me like that. So I had worked towards all these things. I was doing so good. I had a great friend group. I wasn't getting in trouble anymore. And if I was, it was very minimal. Home life was better. And then I had to move. And everything that I had worked for, I basically squandered right when I got back to California. And home life went bad. Grades were shit. Got in trouble. Wasn't playing basketball anymore. And sooner or later, I was able to go live with my mom, who also lived in California. And that ended up working out really well. But I never went back to basketball. I did a little bit here and there, went and did some practices and things like that. But I had never gotten that feeling again from that mentor and somebody that, I worked with so closely like I did with Kenny. And I still would think about it all the time after high school. Like, dang, why didn't I just continue to play basketball? Why didn't I stick with it? Why didn't I just keep getting better? Because he constantly told me, you can go to college for this, you can get a scholarship for this, you just have to keep working, you're really good. And I believed him, and I was, but I didn't do it. I basically wasted that potential, if we must put it so bluntly. Now, obviously, even if somebody does that, like how I did, maybe it wasn't to the same extent of someone else that might have, gotten themselves in a lot more bad situations. But nonetheless, I had my own fair share of demons that I had to fight just with that alone, that I'm always going to have to fight, because that's never going to happen now. And that's just the harsh truth. It's the reality. And I don't even think I'd want to do it now. Right. But it's kind of the same feeling like when I'm thinking about dancing, because it taught me so much. I met some amazing people. I made a lot of money. It put me in better positions. And I'm so grateful for it. And I think it's because I had such a big life experience with that industry that I constantly am thinking, maybe not all the time. It's gotten a lot less year after year, but it still goes into my brain, and I can't help but think about it. But when somebody has a larger purpose, when they know what they want, when they have certain goals and ambitions, and even if the first thing that you're working towards, something you might have been working towards your entire life, doesn't work out, finding higher purpose, finding something else to pursue, finding out who you are, because a sport, an industry, a career, it doesn't define you. An addiction, it doesn't define you. So it's like having something else. And even if you have to go and pursue different things year after year and figure out what your next role is really, and what your next chapter is, and what you're going to pursue, it, whatever it takes to be able to get that is going to be what's necessary in order for you to get past this feeling. And even then you may not fully get past it, but I think it's good if you can channel it and hopefully somewhat control it. One thing that I always do when I am considering going back, right? And I never really truly, I don't make any calls. I don't look anything up on the internet like, oh, what do I need to do to get back into the industry? Like certain legalities, like in a certain sheriff's card, things like that. I digress. However, whenever I'm considering and it just passes my mind, I think about this movie that I watched. I remember specifically, it was a while ago, but I was heavily considering taking a trip there for the weekend, I swear. And I was like, God, universe, give me a sign. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I thinking so heavily about this? Should I go back? Should I go, round two? And I've always told myself nothing is ever the same the second time around. That's with anything. That's with a career, maybe going back to the same job, going back to the same man, going back to the same bullshit, like whatever it is, nothing is ever the same the second time around. So if you decide you're the same addiction, if you decide you're going to stop something, you go back, it's more than likely not. Like even, bro, I went to Arizona. I had such a good trip. Beginning of, no, mid-J. I had such a good trip mid-May in Arizona, like fucking lit. It was so much fun. Went back end of May for another friend. It was still lit, but it wasn't the same the second time around. Like, you have all these high expectations. Like, for example, I went to Miami a couple years ago. I'm like, oh, we go back. It's about to be so lit. It's never the same the second time around. Different experiences, different people, different circumstances, whatever. So that's one thing I always tell myself. But when I was thinking, I was like, give me a sign, give me a sign. I ended up watching this movie on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you have not seen it, you absolutely have to. It's based on a true story. There's a book on it, I believe, but it's called Rob Peace. So Rob Peace, and I'll just give you a quick breakdown, but I don't want to spoil it, guys. I don't want to spoil it. But it's basically about a young man who came from a city in New Jersey, just humble upbringing. His dad went to prison when he was really young for murder. And the kid, they always knew from a young age he was super smart, like extremely smart, above average. So his mom worked to put him in a private all-boys school when he was younger, I think like middle school through high school. And during that time, when he got old enough to work, he started working multiple jobs to pay for his dad to have a good lawyer to be able to fight his case, because they felt as if, they kind of just threw him in there sometimes. And it's interesting because it's not funny. It's interesting because I was literally talking to a lawyer that I know in Sacramento yesterday. And I was like, do you think the system's fucked up? He's like, it's so fucked up. He's like, the system is so fucked. Like the justice system, it's fucked. It's so fucked up. I'm like, fuck. And everyone knows it, right? But like hearing it from a lawyer, a criminal defense attorney, it's like, fuck. He's like, you have to hold the people, the DA, to their burden of proof. If you get lazy, they'll get lazier. Like people are just, if they don't have enough bad guys lock up, which they almost always will, is what they say. But let's just say they don't. They're just going to start putting people behind bars, like for different reasons, any reason that they can find. And we've seen that. So his dad going to prison, he knew that his situation was fucked up. So he hired a lawyer, he worked those jobs, and he ended up getting his dad out. Now, however, the people, the DA, the system, they still could, I think they could appeal it. So they were working to appeal it and get him back in for other reasons, whatever. But long story short, he got his dad out. Now, after his dad got out, he was looking, at that point, he was looking at colleges. He got into Yale. That's why I'm saying this man is smart as fuck. Okay. Got in this true story, got into Yale, I think a full ride scholarship, ended up going to Yale. While he was in Yale, his dad got sent back to prison. Like I said, the people who put him there, once he got out, they appealed it. They got him back in there somehow, some way. You have to watch the movie. But while he's at Yale, he ends up, and again, this is, I think, from the 90s, maybe early 2000s. Don't quote me on it. But weed was really popular. There wasn't no dispensaries. So he started selling weed to cover his dad's legal fees and still like working and trying to just get his dad out. So he started selling weed, makes hella money, and almost gets caught. So he almost gets caught, almost loses his entire scholarship, almost can't graduate, almost doesn't walk, doesn't get caught, but he almost does. And that was like close call, you know what I mean? But it could have ruined his ability to graduate. He lost references because even though he didn't get caught, people were suspicious. And therefore, the professors that were going to recommend him for certain programs, they ended up like revoking their recommendations. But that was his experience. Fast forward, he stops selling, he graduates, he goes back to New Jersey because his dad's there, in prison. His mom's there. She's living at the house. And it was in the 2000s because he started getting into real estate before the crash. Fast forward, the crash happens, right? We all know what happened. Real estate went fucking upside down. Shit was bad. People lost their homes, lots of money, their businesses, things like that. He ends up needing a lot of money quickly. So what does he do? He thinks about the easiest route to get a certain amount of money to be able to, pay back his friends, maybe other investors, pay back the banks. Like that's where his mindset is. So you have to think he's in a situation where he feels like his back is against the wall. And although there's other alternatives that at the end of the day, let's say drugs didn't exist. Let's say drug dealing didn't exist. What would he do? He'd have to figure it out, right? But it's like, because you think of the easiest route that you've done before, the easy money, it's there. That's the first thing you think of. So for me, let's say I was in a situation where I needed hella money quick. What's my first thought? Stripping. Hello. I've done it. I know I make money. I know what it takes. So I'm like, I could just go back and strip, right? That's exactly what his mindset was. I could just go back and sell. And that's exactly what he did. I'll let you watch the movie to see how it ends. But long story short, it's never the same the second time around. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, let's say I was to go back. I've already mentioned this a million times. I've been fired from every single job I've ever had, stripping or not. I've been kicked out of every club, usually for my attitude, the way I handle certain situations, whatever the case may be. But I've always had to come with my tail between my legs and apologize and get back in the door, because there's only a couple really, really good clubs in Vegas. You get kicked out of both and they don't let you back for whatever reason, you're out at a fucking boo-boo club, or a club that doesn't pay out as much, basically, or doesn't have as many ballers. So I'm like, second time around, I left on top. I could come back and then leave on my ass. I could, let's say, go to an after party or a private party and shit go bad. Like, there's a million different things that can happen. There is risk involved in anything, but that's where my mindset goes. It goes to rob peace. And I feel like after I watched that movie, I was like, this is the sign that I literally needed. No matter what, whether my back's against the wall or not, let's say I was to lose my business today, like I will never go back. Like I will never, ever, ever go back. And it also it's a little bit of a pride thing, besides the fact that I have a purpose and I have goals and I have things that I'm working towards. Anybody that I want to connect with, anybody that I may want to partner with or work with in the future, you think that if I'm trying to go work with them while I'm still dancing just for the hell of it, that they're going to have any type of respect? No. And even if they did, it's just not a good look. And that's just for me. I'm not worried about anyone else. I'm worried about myself, right? So it's like stripping while trying to have partnerships with high-level individuals. Like, think about that, right? So it's a little questionable. And then on top of that, just going back and having that risk associated, like I said, my back was against the wall. I would just go into sales. Like, I would just go into some sales job. Like, literally, that was my bro, if I was to lose everything today, just go into sales. That's it. I know I can do it. I've done it before. It's just a different type of sale. But that's kind of where my mindset was. So that's, like I said, that's something that I wrestle with all the time. So if you've been there, if you're there, trust me, you are not alone. And it's also interesting because I was just watching a new docuseries on Netflix. I think it's called Power Moves or Making Moves with Shaq. And it talks about his role at Reebok, because he's been with Reebok since he was first in the NBA. He's been with them for a lifetime. Same thing with AI. But basically, they've both been with Reebok for a lifetime. And Reebok was on the decline. They haven't had a basketball shoe or anybody step foot on a professional court with a basketball shoe by Reebok, I think, in 15 years. So Shaq comes in. He's the president. AI is the vice president. And they do everything that they can to turn it around. However, Shaq wants to bring in, I don't know how many sons he has, but one of his sons, or his son, Sharif, who is a little bit younger than me, I think maybe a couple years younger, but he's out of college. He was working towards making it to the NBA. I think he played for a G League team and was going to go play overseas, but his dad ended up wanting him to stay just because it was too far where he was going. He wanted him to be present. And now his dad's trying to put him in a position to work at Reebok and be one of the high-level execs, somebody that recruits other players that they can sponsor, things like that. And Sharif was doing it for a while, and then he got a call from the Kings. And they're like, hey, we want to give you an opportunity to come and try out. And him, a lot of what he was talking about in the episode throughout the entire docuseries was how much he misses basketball and how much he wants to keep going. He wants to keep playing. He's not done. And he's had certain setbacks and he's had, adversity, but he wants to continue. And although his dad and probably other people around him know, like, bro, we don't need another basketball player in the family, right? That's what Shaq says. But Sharif is in this mindset where he's like, no, like I have to do what I said I would do. I have to do what I said. I have to at least try to the best of my ability. If I'm given an opportunity, I want to take it. And opposed to maybe living with the regret of not even trying. So I can understand his mindset, right? But that transition, you could tell when he was sitting in the like executive rooms, when he was in the conference meetings, when he was on the Zooms, he's like, I'm not used to this shit. I'm used to waking up, like going to the gym, hooping, like that's his mindset. So imagine somebody that age who went through all this adversity, worked so hard to get to the next level, especially with whose dad is, right? Like living up to that name. And then now he's sitting in fucking boardrooms, even though he's going to be in a great position. He's probably going to he is going to make way more money than he could have in the NBA, more than likely. But he has this desire. He has this thing that he wants to do. And nobody is, there to knock him. But it just made me think again, like, it's that itch. It's that itch. Like, you have to find somebody that can scratch that itch. I see a lot of people that might have been in sports become coaches, or people that were people that might have been in a profession for a long period of time, maybe become a professor. Like, I see a lot of different people that have backgrounds in these industries or in these sports become the teacher. And I think that there's some value in it because maybe you've made mistakes. You've done things that you might regret or that wish you did differently that you can now pass on to someone else. And I think there's value in that. And the people that have done it, that have walked the walk, they just want to be able to teach what they've done. So a lot of value. But so I feel like the more conversations I have with people that I know that are my age, the more I'm finding out that nobody has it together. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody knows where they're at. People are still figuring it out. People are still going back to school. They're still changing careers, still getting laid off. And there's so much uncertainty with people. Some people are getting married. Some people are having kids. Some people are having crises. Some people are still living at home. Whatever it may be, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as you stay in your lane and you focus on you and what you need to do, and you're trying different things, I think that if you do something along those lines, you'll be okay. But a lot of people get stuck in their head and they get stuck in, the place that they're at. But one thing I've realized is your timeline is your timeline. And it's interesting because last year I had wrote this thought down because I was taking a class at ARC. I was trying to learn about couple different topics. And one of the classes had to do with business. And I've had my own business for the last 6 years or so. And one of the things they talked about was business formation and ways that you can structure a business and all the legalities behind it and how to operate a business and all the liability behind a business, the taxes behind a business, everything about a business. And to the first person hearing it, it can sound really, really overwhelming. Like, it can actually be discouraging. Like, damn, all these things are associated with the business. I can lose it like this. I can grow it like that. I have to pay taxes. How much? Like, there's so many different things associated with it that, like I said, it could really discourage someone. But as I was thinking about it and how I've built mine, is like, it's one of those things where even if you hear all the things that can discourage you from actually pursuing something, if you just start, if you just take the first step, everything will be okay. Because one thing that I've learned is if you take the first step and you just get started, you'll start to learn, you'll start to make mistakes, you'll meet other people in the industry that can give you insight and value and be able to show you what they've done to potentially help you prevent any additional hurdles. But I've been through a lot in my business or even businesses, and I've failed a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm still making mistakes, but just starting was the best thing that I could have done. If I was to sit there and listen to all the negative, all the cons about opening a business, running a business, all the things that you have to do, I probably would have gotten discouraged, or I would have reconsidered it, or I would have waited. And the sooner you start, the sooner you just put yourself in a better position, you're already halfway there. Like you just starting, you just making a decision. People making a decision and sticking to it. I just finished reading the 4 Agreements. If you guys haven't read it, it's definitely a great book. It's interesting because I've heard about it for literally the last 10 years, and I've never opened the book. First of all, I thought it was going to be thicker and larger. It's not. It's like a little baby book. And I don't even think it's over 200 pages, but it's about the 4 Agreements. And even them breaking down the agreements, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So the first one is being impeccable with your word. So that goes into, if you say you're going to do something, if you say you're going to start something, you do it, you start it, you work towards it, you fail at it. Whatever it is you need to do, you be impeccable with your word. Another one is don't take anything personally. You don't really know what's going on. That goes into also don't assume. Don't assume. Again, you don't really know what's going on. People are people, feelings are feelings. And a lot of us can get trapped in our own emotions, in our own assumptions, in our own delusion. And it just kind of talks about how to not do that. And then lastly is always do your best. So if you're always doing your best, whether that's trying to make sure you stay impeccable with your word, you don't assume, you don't take things personally, putting your best foot forward every single day, trying your best to keep the relationships that you have strong, then you'll be good. But that's why I say bringing it into the 4 Agreements is just being about what you say you're about. And one of the things that I've done is whenever I'm considering doing something, I will do my research and I'll be like, damn, this is like some work, but anything worth having is. Anything worth pursuing is going to be work. Hello? Like what? You think shit's free? You think shit just, it's going to cost you. You know what I mean? You think things are just going to land in your lap? No. I think ideas might pop into your mind. And I was listening to Russell Brunson. I swear I've talked about this on the podcast. If not, it's so valuable. Russell Brunson owns ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is like a big software that helps people create sales pages and websites and things like that. But he's literally like the godfather of online marketing, him and 𝐻𝐺 Lopez, basically. But he talks about how he believes God, I think he's religious, but he says, I believe God puts ideas into our mind to see what we do with it. He puts things in our heart to see how we pursue them. And there's been things that have put in my mind and my heart that I know I need to pursue, that I know I need to do. And that's another reason why I'm like, I will never go back to the things that I know that I'm now past, or the people that I know I no longer, need to have in my life and that I need to have relationships with. It's the same exact thing. You can really relate it to anything in life. But I think too many people, maybe they're doing things that don't serve them. And it might just be because they don't, number one, know themselves well enough yet. They don't love themselves enough yet. But that's where all that self-growth comes in. I feel like I'm in such a good place right now. Just health, wealth, love, happiness, like everything in my life. I'm blessed. And I should be feeling like, I would hope that I could feel like that majority of the time. But the reality is we have our bad days. We have our seasons. I've had my fair share of seasons. I had one recently. And it's tough. But then once you get through it, you just realize how beautiful life is and how much you have to offer, how much the world has to offer, how many amazing things that you're capable of, and just continuing on that self-healing, self-growth, self-love journey. But I'll leave you guys with that. Hopefully you got some value out of it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Calm down before you stress up the groove. The energy a little different when